Hi, welcome to our next episode. So today I have a new guest and her name is Emma. So welcome, Emma,
Thank you for having me.
and I'm so grateful for you because you're my first guest where we'll talk about this brand new or a new topic that I haven't talked about before. So I'd like to ask you, who is Emma and why do you do what you do?
So, I am a psychosomatic therapist, and basically that just means I work with people on a mind, body, and spirit level. So, kind of connecting the dots between all of those things. And yeah, I help people who are in pain. I help people who want to tap into their own expression, and I help them feel safe in their bodies to do that. It's quite often, if you've grown up in a household where you haven't been allowed to express or things like that, then it can be really difficult for people.
Yeah, so how long have you been doing this work?
Ooh, probably about, what are we, 2024, about 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Now I've kind of gradually I started with the more mind-based side of things. I
Yeah.
started with things like NLP, and I was
Ah,
like, do you know what? Like, this is too much mind-based stuff. Like, we all live in our heads a lot as it is. And I was kind of looking for that bit more. And then I came across all of the body-based stuff and the somatic stuff, and that kind of just, yeah, moved more into that and really, really enjoy it. So yeah, it's been a gradual work in progress of adding skills and changing the way I do things. And yeah, I think I found a really good combination now.
yeah, that's awesome. So is this something that you specialize in now, like the somatic work, or
Hmm.
do you still do a bit of NLP and mind work, or not really?
Not really. I do the odd bit here and there. Like I might do something like values, like I might work with someone
Yeah.
to work what their values are, which is considered mind-based, I guess. But that's it. Like I really am so interested in the body side of things, and I see such good results, and I've had such good results myself with working in what's called the bottom-up process. So the body-based process as opposed to the top-down, which is the mind-based. So yeah,
Okay. Yep.
I try to just stick to the body now.
Yeah. And yeah, I know that it's so important to have for me, I work a lot more with the mind because I also studied NLP,
Ah, yeah.
and yeah, so I know what I mean. There's so much power in that with switching,
Mm,
like reframing, and the values is so important.
mm,
And
mm,
then I also know that in my own journey that like really going back to that anchoring that the new thoughts into my body, like
mm,
connecting, like tapping my body, that really has helped me tremendously. So I know that there is so much power in like using all of these different
mm.
ways. So yeah,
Yeah.
and so you've been doing this for 4 years. And when did the cacao ceremony work begin? Because I know
So
you do that.
that was actually, it kind of happened almost by accident, but nothing's by accident, really, is it? So that was, I've been using Cacao myself, and I was mentored with Cacao over the last few years with a couple of different people. And then at the start of last year, I actually won a scholarship spot, so a fully paid spot in a ceremonial cacao facilitation course. So it was like I was just being like pushed to do it. And yeah, so it just happened, and it just led me down this beautiful path of holding ceremonies for people in groups and one-on-one, online and in person. So yeah, I think that was definitely one of the things that I've learned that was pre-decided. It was just going to happen.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I mean, I've heard of these ceremonies, but I didn't really it didn't occur to me that you could do this online. So
Mm,
that's awesome.
yeah.
And I'd love to hear more about like in what ways does does the cacao, how does it work how does it
Mhm.
help people within their bodies? I think like it activates something, or what does it do?
Yeah, so it's a cardiovascular system stimulant,
Mm-hmm.
which really helps to activate the heart and it helps to
Ah,
connect the mind and the heart together. And it's got quite a few different compounds in it, which are very, very heart opening. It also activates neural pathways. So when we're doing healing work, like rewiring those neural pathways is ultimately what makes the change. So it's a really
yeah.
good, it complements mindset work really well. It complements body-based stuff really well. So it activates those neurological pathways that would normally not be so switched on. So I feel like it's a bit of a cheat code because it has these compounds in it
Yeah.
that can actually do that on a physical level and a scientific level. So yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, like you've got me really interested now. Like I want to go and see how to learn this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful medicine. So it's a plant medicine, but fully legal. You know, you have your plant medicines that are not legal, so they're a bit more difficult to come by and difficult to. They're a bit more intense as well. Whereas cacao is very gentle, like it's very um, you can have a higher dose of it if you want. So you basically make it like it's a hot chocolate, but it's the rawest form of the cocoa bean, the cacao bean. So
Yeah.
it's very bitter. So it's an acquired taste. Some people who have it really don't like the taste at first, but then the more you work with it, you kind of like everything, like you have more of an appreciation for it, and you can, the taste is not so much of a factor. But yeah, it really helps us to not only ground because it is a plant medicine, but it also connects us to the above and it allows us to get things like messages and visualizations and things like that while we're in ceremony.
Okay, and I was thinking about the ingredients. Are they hard to get, or
Mm.
is a
So
particular one that is the which one would you recommend? Is there a
yeah,
brand or
yeah. So there's a few different ones, and it's becoming more and more popular, which is good and bad because we do need to make sure that we're getting something that is like ethically grown, no slave trade, because as something gets more popular, there's more of a risk for slavery and things like that. It's grown in very specific parts of the world. So places like Peru, Guatemala, there's Balinese cacao as well, which is quite new compared to Peruvian cacao. Balinese cacao is only like 40 years old as opposed to Peruvian, which is thousands, like up to like 5,000 years
yeah.
old. So it's grown in those communities with intention, and you can get it like really easily now. So online, in some health food stores or like metaphysical stores will have it. But what you're looking for is that it's ceremonial grade. So not like the powdered stuff that you get at like Woolies, or some health food stores. So it comes in a paste or like a block form or like chunks.
Mm,
And it's you need to just make sure that the one that you're buying is sustainable, ethically grown, no slave trade, organic, shade grown preferably because it's raw. So even like the sun, if it's not grown under shade, like the sun is classified as roasting it, really, like it's
mm,
getting sun roasted.
yeah.
And we want it to be as raw as possible because that's when it's got the most nutritional benefits, but also the most activating benefits in terms of the heart and the neural pathways. So, yeah, it's cacao, ceremonial cacao is not cheap, but it's one of those things that you really need to pay well for it because the communities that do it, they're small communities. They're really very intentional with it. So it's really important to pay them well for it.
Yeah, I totally understand that. And
Yeah.
I wanted to move into, I've got a couple of things that popped up about plant medicine, and maybe we can go into that about, do you have any other experience with other plant medicines? And have
Mm,
you been to Peru or, yeah.
I haven't been to Peru. It's definitely on my list. So the woman that I learnt from, she's been to Peru. She's had um, certain things passed down to her from tribes in Peru. I've worked with other people who also have been to Peru and that kind of thing. I haven't gotten there myself yet, but it's definitely on the list. But yeah, it's um, I've forgotten the second part of that question.
Oh no, that's it. I think you're just
Ah, cool.
experimenting with
Oh
other
yes,
plant
different plants.
medicines.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So myself, I haven't personally felt the call to do
Mm,
like, an ayahuasca journey or anything like that. It's, it definitely pops up every now and again, and I've had the opportunity to do it, but I just haven't felt the call. I know
mm,
a lot of people they just know when they want to do it. They're like, I just feel called to do it, and they go up and do it, but just not yet. Maybe one day, but maybe not. Who knows?
yeah. And I want to move into the like, have you had a moment in your like life in terms of spiritual moments where it's like, oh, this moment I remember it was so transformational.
Mm, mm. Um, in terms of spirituality, I think when I was first getting into spirituality, probably at the start of 2018, I think it was, a friend of mine at work, I mentioned that I just, was having trouble at work and I felt really negative all the time. And she was like, oh, maybe you're, an empath and you're picking up on other people's negative energy. And I was just like, really? Okay, like, okay, that's a thing. And so she suggested that I go to a crystal shop
Mm,
um, and get a crystal to help me with that. She recommended a certain one. And I went to the crystal shop and I wanted just like a necklace pendant. And I couldn't find anything that I liked that was that particular crystal. But then another one caught my eye. It was like a smoky quartz. And it had a phantom in it, it's like a specific like marking. It's like a
mm,
crystal in a crystal almost. Um, and I had no idea like what I was looking at. And the beautiful ladies in the shop were like, "Oh, have a look in this book, and it will tell you what the crystal is, and it'll tell you what phantoms mean." And as soon as I read it, like it was just basically like describing my life at that point in time. And I was
mm,
just like, wow, okay. Like, and I just the fact that I was intuitively like pulled to that crystal
yeah.
was I think that was probably the first time that I actually had noticed my intuition and
Mm,
was just like, oh my gosh, like this is actually a thing. So I think that was really what kind of started the belief in me.
yeah. And do you, in terms of crystals, like from that day forward, have you been interested in crystals? Has it grown since that time?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I've got so many crystals to
Yeah.
the point now where I'm like, I think I probably should pass some on to someone else, or because I have got a lot of crystals. But I've got my favorites that I work with all the time. Like in
Yeah.
ceremonies, I use rose quartz a lot because
Yeah.
because it's just your heart and love and self-love, and yeah, it's just a really nice one to work with in ceremonies.
Yeah, okay. And um oh, I want to go into the somatic
Mm.
work. So you said you're a somatic, sorry, was it
Psychosomatic, yeah, psychosomatic
psychosomatic? Okay,
therapist.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And um so what would that so let me what kind of example can you give us? Like a common issue that someone might have
Mm.
that like they might tell you, oh, I feel something, I feel this in my body, in my chest, and then
Yeah.
how would you work with them?
Yeah, so neck is a very, very common one for
Okay.
people. And even doctors are like, oh, your neck's sore, are you stressed? Like, so it's kind of one of the more socially accepted ones, I guess. Even people that don't usually like believe in the psychosomatic side of things. But yeah, I get a lot of people coming to me with neck problems and neck pain, and like it's a lot around the throat chakra, which is
Mm,
all about expression. Like, what are you saying? Like, what are you not saying? What
mm,
are the things that you need to get out? And like, even sometimes, like, maybe people are expressing something or saying something, but it might not be in a way that feels good for them. Like, it might be in a way that feels like it's against like, how they actually do want to express. Or maybe they need to express it in a totally different way. So that's a very, very common one. And the back of the neck, like at the base of the skull, is also a lot around the past and past lives as well.
okay.
Yeah, so people hanging on to the past, really reminiscing about the past and reflecting on the past. and sometimes even can be past lives playing a part, and like having to go in and have a look at that and see if there's anything from previous lives that's carried onto this life that needs to be closed off, and things need to be learnt from it, and accepted, and being able to like fully move on from it. Because yeah, it's the neck is very much like, especially if people do have that base of the neck pain, like at the bony parts at the bottom of the skull. It's a lot of like really just being weighed down by the past. So that's one of the most common ones.
Okay. And then would you release that using
Mm.
another method, right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
if they're in person, I do a lot of emotional release body work. So
Yeah.
that's using different, like basically applying pressure and massage to different points in the body to release that. And while I'm doing that, like I like to do a lot of inner child work, um, which is basically going in and having them connect with their inner child and see what version of them is the one who is actually struggling with this the most and where it all started, because it's most of the time like it's actually not them in that moment that's being triggered or activated or having the problem. It's that little version of themselves that felt like they couldn't express, or felt like learnt that they couldn't say what they needed to say, or express in a certain way. So we go all the way back and yeah, start the reparenting process so that they can give their inner child what they actually needed to feel safe to express in that moment.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's so good. Like you've got all of those
Mm,
different perspectives, and you really, I can imagine that it helps people a lot with
yeah,
releasing those
yeah,
discomforts.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I wanted to ask about, oh yeah, so in terms of where your business is going and what your plans are, what do you have? Like, what's the next thing that you've got going on?
So my business is moving. I'm kind of narrowing my focus a little bit. So it was just dealing with helping people who were in pain or had illness in any type of way, and helping them to figure out what was causing that emotionally or trauma-wise or inner child-wise, and then working through that. And now I'm focusing a lot more on, like the example I gave, because so many people are dealing with it, with expression, with not feeling like they're able to express in the way they want, with not feeling safe in their body to say what they want. And then being able to, once we've sort of moved through anything that's in the way of expressing how they want to, then using that energy for creating. Because I've also got a background in like writing and editing and communications and things like that. So, like, what do they actually want to create from that energy? And in particular, more on the writing side. So, if they've got any like projects, like books or anything like within them that they've kind of wanted to bring to life, but they haven't felt the confidence to do that, or they've felt fear around doing that, then, after we've spent some time helping them feel safe in expressing, then we can go into the actual creation stages of it, which is really cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm about to actually do a 4-part cacao ceremony series, which is centered around expression and centered around, yeah, having like cultivating that safety within the body to feel safe to express.
Okay, yeah, and you're doing that in person, like in a
So
kind
that's
of
an online one.
or
Yeah.
online. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a group online one, which will be really cool, because like cacao ceremonies in groups are just great. Like, everyone kind of comes in and they have their own intention for the ceremony, but then, really we've all been drawn together for the same reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's nice to have that community, and they get to chat with each other afterwards as well, in like a Telegram group, and have that support for each other, and have my support. So yeah, it's going to be really nice.
Yeah, is that still open for registration
Yeah,
or
yeah,
yeah?
I've only just announced it, so it'll be
Oh,
up.
okay.
Yeah, so great timing. So yeah, I've probably another couple of weeks. I reckon I haven't set the dates yet, but I reckon it'll probably be towards the end of November that it'll be running.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
And I will put the link down in the description as well. So if people are interested, they can sign up.
thank you.
Um, And I think this, oh yeah, kind of second last question is what is your perspective of of the universe? Like what's your how do you view everything? Like maybe it's God, maybe it's higher self,
Mm,
or how what's your perspective on that? And have you had any recent moments where you kind of had this deeper understanding of how your how everything works, how reality is?
good question. So I tend to I tend to use universe source interchangeably.
Mm,
I call on my guides and angels a lot too. I'm like very connected with angels, so
yeah.
I tend to call on them more so than anything. And if I'm needing help or if I'm, giving gratitude for anything, it'll be to the angels. Excuse my cat. Um, so yeah, recently I've just there's been a lot of stuff happening around money for me recently. And so I've been asked to be looked after with money. And it's just, it, it never ceases to amaze me how every time I ask, like, it's always delivered. So I think just recently, just really having that reinforced to me and like reminded me that, all you need to do is ask. Like all you need to do is ask and then just hand over your worries, hand over like anything that you're worried or scared about and just trust that it's coming. Um, I think, yeah, moving into trust lately has been a big theme for me. It's been a big year and I think that's been one of the themes of the year. Just keeping in that trust. And even if you like dip out of it for a second, just bringing yourself back to it in any way that you can. And, I think I'm so grateful that I do have my practices with Cacao that I do myself. Like I use it a lot myself. I'm grateful that I have that because that really helps to bring me back into that trust when I need to.
Yeah, knowing and trusting the
Yeah.
universe, trusting yourself is such a huge thing for
Mm,
me as well. I've recently also learned that.
yeah.
Yeah. Um and also relearning it within the context of a business. It's got all these
Yes.
other challenges.
Yes, so
Yeah.
true. Yeah. It's a different ball game with business. Like you learn trust in one area and then it's like, oh, hang on, maybe I don't have as much trust as I thought in this. So okay, let's work on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so grateful to have this conversation with you, Emma. And yeah, I will so if people are interested in finding out more, where can they find you? What's the
Yeah.
best place?
Yep. So Instagram and TikTok, I hang out on there. I do have a YouTube channel. My handle for all of them is emma.louise with a Z. So Louize dot psychosomatics. So you'll be able to find me from that. My website is www.emmalouise again with a Z.com. That is just pointing to a sales page for my online program, my psychosomatics online program though. So that's what you'll find there. The website is still on the to-do list after 4 years.
Okay. I actually love the name Psycho-somatics.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? It just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, and it just sounds so like it draws you in. Like, oh,
Mm.
what's that?
Yeah, a lot of people are like, oh, is that like, psychiatry or like psychology or something like that?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, not quite.
Okay, thank you so much, Emma.
No worries. Thank you
And
for having me.